Welcome to the Odds Breakers, number one place for shared sharp betting information.
All right, welcome back to podcast 14 of 2019 NCAA Conference Tournaments. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill. You can tweet me at the Public Dog, and you can tweet us at the Odds Breakers. We have a fantastic show once again, bringing you some information on our takes of these conference tournament odds. We have Dan Everett to come in at the end to break down the Big East, which he specializes in, as well as the ACC and the Pac-12. This episode is being brought to you by mybookie.ag. For a 50% sign-up bonus, please visit MyBookie and use the promo code TheOddsBreakers. Terms and conditions apply. If you'd like to help us out with our costs, sponsor the podcast, we would love to help you out. Please visit theoddsbreakers.com and for $12.99 a month, become a member. And we'll give you our picks and premium picks when we make them before the line moves. For $2 more, please become a patron subscriber, and you get the podcast at times a little bit early. And if nothing else, please visit theoddsbreakers.com and become a free picks newsletter subscriber. Quick before we get into basketball, I want to go over a little bit of football news here. It looks like Mr. Antonio Brown has finally landed a new place, and it is in, the new Las Vegas Raiders. They're not there yet. The Oakland Raiders, and with John Gruden. Now, the deal, unfortunately for teams, paid Antonio Brown another guaranteed contract, and I think it was a pretty big contract as well. It's $30 million guaranteed. A 3-year deal worth $50 million, about $16.7 million per year. So definitely raised the bid for wide receivers. But giving up a third round and a fifth round when, the Raiders had a ton of picks, that's a pretty good deal. I know they gave up Amari Cooper, but they got a first rounder back, and they're going to have to pay him a bunch of money. Antonio Brown is most likely a step above Amari Cooper, but is his head a step above Amari Cooper? I don't know about that. He's a bit of a diva, and he's going to be complaining for the ball a lot. If Gruden can handle it, then we'll see. But in my opinion, I've always valued the Patriot way of doing things, where no player, maybe except the quarterback, is bigger than the team. They share. No one's paid too much. They all come together. No one complains. And, bringing in a guy like Antonio Brown, you're definitely taking a risk on your locker room a little bit, in my opinion. But, maybe now he got paid. He tones it down. He becomes a complete, team player. Let's hope he does for all the Raider fans out there. They also just signed Trent Brown from the Patriots for a huge $60-some million contract, which is interesting. Lots of moves the Raiders are making, it looks like, and it looks like they're going for it this year. We'll see if old Carr can throw that ball in Antonio Brown's hands and Cook's hands and where he needs it. They still need a running game over there. It looks like the Jaguars locked up Nick Foles, $88 million, $50 million guaranteed, 4-year deal. Some pretty big bucks for Nick Foles. Congrats to the man. There was a time where he thought he was kind of done in the NFL. Resurged to the Eagles, picked up, showed he was clutch. I'd argue easily that he's a better clutch performer and big game quarterback than Carson Wentz. I think Wentz is going to have a lot of pressure this year. And I think Nick Foles will do the Jaguars good. He's smart. He knows where to place the ball. it's it's perfect for him. He's got a Super Bowl. He can kind of just, ride off into the sunset with the Jaguars. And, if you suck, it's just the Jaguars. No, but congrats to him. Carlos Hyde went to the Kansas City Chiefs. That's going to be interesting. I still think Williams is going to be their best, threat for running back from the pass. I basically think Williams is going to be the Kareem Hunt this year. And, I think maybe Carlos Hyde might be the Spencer Ware. I think he's going to kind of take some of those third and short type snaps rather than any first or second down type action. So any Williams Dynasty fantasy owners should feel pretty safe. The Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu, is also moved to Kansas City this year as well. So some really interesting stuff happening already in the NFL. Can't wait till the draft. We'll be working on the NFL draft all of April and May to give you a great preview on which teams need who and how I project the best, well, I guess my draft board, how I project how the players should go to which teams in the first round. That's always a fun one to do. That's always a great podcast. Lots of fun. Our agenda for March Madness is going to be 2 shows a week, at least until, past the Sweet 16. Once you get the Final Four, we'll probably have 1 show later in the week, breaking all of that good stuff down. That will bring us into baseball and horse racing season. We don't podcast much about baseball. We'll definitely have some articles up. And obviously, if you're a handicapper looking to contribute to the odds breakers and you specialize in baseball, soccer, NHL, NBA, please tweet us at the odds breakers. We'd love to hear from you. Now, quickly, I would like to go over our final Big Ten rankings. And there's been some slight changes. Michigan State, number 1. Purdue, number 2. I think they're above everyone else. You have Michigan at 3rd, a little beat up. Wisconsin is 4th. Maryland's 5th. Iowa, I'm still keeping at 6th. They've been sliding, but I'm still keeping them right there at 6 because of their potential. Minnesota is 7th. Indiana is back at 8th. They surpassed Ohio State and Penn State. And actually, I have Penn State 9th. They've been hotter than Ohio State. Ohio State without Caleb Wesson has been hurting. Ohio State is 10th. Illinois is 11th. Rutgers is 12th because Nebraska falling down to 13th. And we have Northwestern bringing up the bottom at 14th. The reason Nebraska fell down, even though they beat Iowa, is they should have lost that game. They were at home, and they've just been getting killed this year in the Big Ten. Since that Copeland injury, they just haven't been able to rebound, really. All right. The Big Ten rankings don't mean anything anymore because we are in conference tournament and NCAA tournament times. These teams are done playing each other, except for, obviously, the matchups that they're going to get against the tournament. They're done with the regular season. So excited to get into some of these futures here. So, real quick, when I bet conference tournaments, NCAA tournaments, NIT tournaments, whatever, there's a couple things I like to look at. Number 1, I look at the team's defense because defense travels, okay? It travels. It comes with you. You can go to a court you're not used at and still at least have a good defense. The second thing I look at is shooting percentage away from home. When I fill out my brackets, I always like to make sure that they have a halfway decent shooting percentage on away, because even though they're not at another person's home court, they are still, obviously not at home. So it does make sense and correlates to them playing an away game. I like to look at against the spread away because this shows you how well the team has been performing according to what Vegas says on their away games. Correlates a little bit as well. And I also finally like to look at what have you done for me lately? Meaning, are you coming into this tournament hot or are you coming into this tournament cold? So when you're playing these games, remember that. And the last thing, of course, is are you a bubble team going into the NCAA tournament? And that's just for the conference tournaments itself. You look at that, and that's there's going to be a little bit extra motivation. A bubble team maybe playing a team that's already in that can't really improve their seed too much unless they win it all. I've seen teams that I thought really improved their seed after winning a conference tournament and went up like one position. So it just really depends upon the committee. Let's get started here, shall we? And I want to get right into the American Athletic Conference Tournament. So, just to let you know, Houston's going to win this. But they're definitely not worth the plus 125 or 1.25 to 1. The team I really don't like in this conference is Cincinnati at plus 250 on the other side of the bracket. They have not finished well. They are in the big dance anyways. I don't see a lot of motivation or reason to be backing a Cincinnati team that can possibly falter here. They've been falling a little bit. Yes, they are 14-4 in the American Athletic Conference, beating out UCF at 13-5. That's why they got that number 2 seed. They do not have any shot to compete with Houston if they get there. And actually, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't get there at all. Now, on the Cincinnati side of the bracket, if you want to get cute, you can also bet Temple at plus 725 or Wichita State at plus 1700, being that, they won't have to play Houston until that final game. But, if you do this, then you have to go harder on the money line rollover with Houston. So I think the correct play is taking Houston, just playing the money line rollover here. I would favor the Wichita State if you wanted to take either one of those, but they have a very tough road. So definitely take the Houston money line rollover when it comes to this tournament, in my opinion. I think Houston is a good separation, better than Cincinnati, UCF, and Temple, Wichita State, and all the rest of them. The next conference I would like to get into is the Big 12. And when I say get into, I mean probably more or less get out of. This tournament's an absolute mess. An absolute freaking mess. You have a clear favorite in Texas Tech at only plus 130. And I agree that they should be the favorites. I don't agree with the line. Better off doing a money line rollover, but I don't even like that. Kansas State is next at plus 350. But how confident can you be with that number? It looks like Dean Wade is questionable again. Hurt his foot again. Playing that last game against Baylor. So it looks like Kamau Stokes is hurt too. So I'm not that confident with Kansas State at all, especially if you know nothing about Wade. But the biggest thing to me that deters me from this tournament is the fact that you have 4 bubble teams here. 4 bubble teams. Oklahoma, TCU, Baylor, and Texas all need runs here, which makes them all very dangerous. They know that they can make the NCAA tournament.